DETV News is powered by DART, Delaware's transit service. Moving forward.
Live proudly, boldly, and with peace of mind by advocating for your health with an early cancer screening. The LGBTQIA+ community is at higher risk of cancer, but screenings can detect cancer early when it's most treatable, giving you the power to live exactly as you are. Talk to your healthcare provider today. If you don't have insurance, talk to a nurse navigator to see if you qualify for free screenings.
The calm after the storm. Crews working around the clock to clean up after storms and tornadoes touched down in the area. Plus, police tape now cover parts of this playground as community members in one neighborhood call what's happening sickening and downright disgusting. And just released today, the latest Delaware test scores show students' continued struggle to bounce back since the pandemic. Details straight ahead. Those stories and much more tonight on DETV News. Hello and welcome to DETV News. I'm Matt Ford. Thanks so much for being with us this Tuesday evening. Topping the news tonight, homes were damaged and tree limbs were littered many roads after strong thunderstorms rolled through our area yesterday. In Hockessin, several rescues had to be made after trees fell onto homes, trapping residents. Delmarva Power reported that more than 37,000 customers were without power, with the largest outages reported in Brookside, Ogletown, and Hockessin areas. But Brandywine 100 and other places were also left in the dark. Now, as of this morning, there were nearly 500 power outages left, affecting over 10,000 customers. Delmarva Power did not have an exact restoration time for most major areas. With some of the down power lines falling on and between backyards, it could be an extensive exercise to get power restored in some areas. Over 1¼ inches of rain fell throughout most of the areas above the canal. A tornado watch was in effect for Delaware, and a severe thunderstorm warning was issued ahead of that line that did spawn several tornado warnings in Virginia, Maryland, and Pennsylvania, with the alert saying 70 miles per hour winds were possible. An outdoor concert at Rockford Park here in Wilmington was also canceled last night due to the storms. In other news, police continue to investigate a fatal accident early Sunday morning in the village of Bayberry North. According to police, a Jeep landed on its side in the parkland with a person trapped underneath. The 20-year-old victim was pronounced dead at Christiana Hospital. Investigators determined the victim was one of 3 passengers in the vehicle, being driven by 21-year-old Jameer Hicks of Middletown. Hicks was allegedly doing donuts in the parkland when the Jeep overturned. Police said alcohol was a factor in this crash. Hicks is being held in prison on $75,000 cash bail after being charged with vehicular homicide and other offenses. And a house in Wilmington is severely damaged after a car crashed right into it on Sunday morning. Police say the car was stolen just minutes before the crash at around 7:30 a.m. This happened on Lincoln and Sycamore Streets in the city. According to police, the car was stolen from a CarMax lot and was speeding when it plowed into the side of the home, as you see here. The driver was taken to the hospital with serious injuries. Now, this particular home, we're told by the owner, has been crashed into 5 times since he's lived there. The mayor and city council members plan to evaluate the road where neighbors say speeding has been a problem for many years. And you might want to hold your nose for this one. A group of teens are being accused of throwing feces that passing cars decided to spread it on areas of a neighborhood playground as well. It happened over the weekend at the Parkside development down in Middletown. One parent says they were even throwing bags of dog waste at her daughter in the park. Areas of the park have been closed as it's being cleaned. Outraged neighbors say a police report has been filed with local authorities. In other news, a task force studying to make recommendations for slavery reparations in Wilmington won't make a preliminary report until next year. Now, it was scheduled to come out this May. The delay stems from an apparent miscommunication between the task force and City Council on holding open meetings that align with the Freedom of Information Act, which states that, quote, a public body must post notice of the date, time, and place of meeting, and whether the meeting will be conducted 7 days in advance, end quote. In 2022, Wilmington launched the City Council Reparations Task Force with 9 appointed members. The group was tasked with researching the first state's complicated slavery history and examining how African Americans in the state have been impacted by an economic legacy of slavery and systematic racism. The committee plans to issue a final report to the City Council by January. The next meeting, taking place on August 14th, will center on economic disparities that have plagued Wilmington. And officials in Newcastle County have agreed to pay more than $1 million to settle a lawsuit stemming from a fatal police shooting in 2021. The settlement calls for the county to pay $1.05 million to a law firm representing the family of Lamon Moses. It also calls for the dismissal of all claims against the 3 officers involved in the incident. Moses was shot on January 13, 2021, as he drove toward the 3 officers who were patrolling in a Wilmington neighborhood where several stolen vehicles had been found. Moses' family sued Newcastle County as well as the 3 officers for wrongful death and excessive force. A toxicology report found that the level of fentanyl in Moses' system was more than 100 times the lethal amount. Moses, who had a history of drug dealing and probation violation convictions dating back to 2012, was wanted for a probation violation at the time of the shooting. He had been arrested on felony drug charges on 2 separate occasions in the year before and was on probation for drug dealing at the time of this incident. And 2 major police reform bills that passed the Delaware General Assembly have been signed into law, culminating a years-long effort to making sweeping changes to police accountability and transparency statewide. The legislation, which passed the Senate on the final day of legislative session at the end of June, establishes local police accountability boards, creates uniform standards for police agencies across the state, requires accreditation for all Delaware law enforcement agencies, and mandates that agencies publish information about internal investigations into use of force and certain other substantiated claims, among other requirements. Under the new law, agencies must publish a detailed narrative regarding investigations into the following: the discharge of a department-issued firearm, even if a person is not struck by bullets, a sustained finding of sexual assault or sexual harassment, a sustained finding of dishonesty related to perjury, false statements, filing false reports, witness tampering and destruction, falsification or concealment of evidence, as well as a sustained finding of domestic violence. In other news, schools are approaching 4 years since the start of the COVID-19 crisis. This will be the 3rd full academic year since initial shutdown wrapped up this spring, and now the 4th is just around the corner. But pandemic interruption remains relevant. Here's why. The data has not stopped saying so. State assessment results released this week continue to illustrate a struggle for students to regain pre-pandemic ground. Figures from the Delaware Department of Education today showed average proficiency across all subjects trailing that of 2019. While straining to boost past last year as well. The average English language arts proficiency across public and charter schools was 40% for 2023, just a 2% drop from last year and still over a dozen points behind pre-pandemic numbers. Math earned 32% proficiency across Delaware, students up 2% from last year. This trudges behind 44% in the year 2019, for these 3rd through 8th graders. Learning loss is still not felt equally here in the first state. In 2023, Black and Latino students continue to trail behind their white and Asian peers, a pattern that predates COVID-19. Now, for the full results, including demographic, district, and charter information, visit the Delaware Open Data Portal website on your screen. And speaking of schools, a college investment program operated by the state of Delaware has seen more than a 40% increase in the number of new participants through the first half of 2023. State Treasurer Colleen Davis said more than 1,400 new DE 529 accounts were opened through June. Of those, 361 of them were eligible for a $100 state contribution through the First Steps program. That initiative provides additional money when an account is opened and the beneficiary is a state resident 5 years old or younger. Davis, aside, has announced a bid for her run for Congress. And over the weekend, 7 students at Great Oaks Charter School graduated from the Freedom Thinkers Academy Workforce Certification Program. With congratulations and best wishes from some of their instructors, this included rock nation artist Freeway of Philadelphia, founder of the academy. Now, according to Freeway, he says the summer program covered the elements of songwriting, recording, photography, and videography, as well as business basics. Freeway said his motivation comes from his experience with renal failure and more than 3 years on dialysis before he got his gift of life. The Academy's cornerstones are music, health, education, and culture. And before we go, also happening over the weekend, the 19th annual Duffy's Hope Celebrity Basketball Game was back at it for another year down at the Chase Fieldhouse. The event promotes peace, nonviolence, and positive recreational activities for at-risk youth here in the First State. Now, Duffy says that his main goal is to bring families together for a fun day while promoting mentorship and awareness about substance abuse. Some of the featured celebs here in town at the event were Jimmy Allen, Black China, Cash Doll, Lil Meech, Lorenz Tate, and many, many more. It was a fun time. And that's going to do it for today's edition of DETV News. Be sure to like and follow us across your favorite social media platforms. And for a look at what's going on around town, head to our website. That's detvch.com. With tonight's news, I'm Matt Ford. I will see you again here tomorrow night.